So how about adding and subtracting numbers in binary? Well, to start things off, let's get some key results. If you have 1 in the units column and you add 0 in the units column, you're going to just get 1 in the units column. That's pretty basic. But what about if you have 1 in the units column and another 1 in the units column? Well, that would be 2 in base 10. But in binary, of course, 2 would be 10. It'd be 1 in the 2's column and 0 in the 1's column. What about the number 1 added together 3 times? Well, that would be the number 3 in base 10. But in base 2, or in binary, that would be 11. Because you have 1 in the 2's column and 1 in the 1's column added together, which would be 3 in base 10. What about when you subtract numbers? 1 minus 0 is 1, we know this. But what about 10 minus 1? Well, 10 represents the number 2, so 2 minus 1 is 1, and 1 in the units column is represented in this way. 11, we know, is the number 3, so 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 in binary is the number 10. So let's try to use these results by adding together these binary numbers. So when we have 111 and we add 100, what do we get? Well, using the results before, we know that 1 plus 0 is 1. It should just be 1. And we know 1 plus 0 is 1 again. And 1 plus 1 is 10. So this would be 10. So overall, when you add these numbers together in binary, you get this number here. Does this make sense in base 10? Well, in base 10, this is 1 plus 2 plus 4 is the top number, and the bottom number is 0 plus 0 plus 4. Overall, this would be the number 11. And this number in binary is 1 plus 2 plus no 4's and an 8. Overall, this is also 11. So this works. In part B, we have 1, 0, 1 and 1, 1, 0. By adding these together, we get the same sort of results. So 1 plus 0 is 1, 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 10. So this is actually the same number. For the part C, if we write 1, 1, 1, 1, and we add 1, 1, 1, remember 1 plus 1 is 10. And we carry it over in the same way that we did before with in our normal base 10. But here we have 1 plus 1 plus 1. And we note before 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. So this will be 1 here, and a 1 kicks over. Next, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 11. 1 here, and it kicks over. Remaining 1 and 1, which is 10. So our final number would be 10,110. What about subtraction now? This should be very similar. If we start with 111 and we subtract 101, let's remind ourselves what we had before. So 1 minus 0 is 1. Oops. What was 1 minus 1? That was 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So we don't need to write the 0 in the front here. This is just the number 10. But in the next example, we are at 110 and we subtract 11. So 0 minus 1. Now, the way that we had to deal with this before is by borrowing 1 from the next column. Normally what we do is we cancel this and write a 9 here. But of course, now we're in binary, we can't do that. So we have to just borrow the 1. So we would say, for example, 10 minus 1. So let's see what 10 minus 1 was. That was the number 1. So 10 minus 1 is the number 1. Now we've used this 1 here, so this would become a 0. And we have to do the same thing. So 10 minus 1 is 1. And then we've used this. And that has left us with nothing on top, and our overall final example would be 11. Okay, in the last example, 1, 1, 0, 0 minus 1, 0, 1. So now we have to look at our 0 minus 1, we can't do. We'd have to borrow from the next column, but there's nothing there either. So now we have to borrow from the next column. And let's see above if we can do that. Well, we are looking at actually doing 100 minus 1. So 100 is 0 in the 1s, 0 in the 2s, and 1 in the 4. So this is actually the number 4. And then we would be subtracting 1. So if we subtract 1 from that, we'd get 3, and 3 in binary would be 1 in the 2s and 1 in the units. So 100 is 4. If you take away 1 from that, you get 11. So if we steal from this column, giving you a 0 now, then by subtracting 1 we're left with 11. So we'd write a 1 here and a 1 underneath. And now we're left with 0 minus 0, with a 1 carrying over, which would be 1. Now we have to do this 0 minus this 1, we can't do, we have to steal from this, put a 1 here, and now we have 10 minus 1, which is 1. So our final result is 111. Right, test your mettle on the examples.